The valley was silent in a way that felt unnatural. Not peaceful, but hollow, like every scream, every gunshot, every final breath had been swallowed by the dust. Human soldier Brooks walked through the ruins with slow, uneven steps, trying to stay steady even as his legs trembled beneath him. His armor was cracked, one shoulder piece missing, and dried blood marked the edges of his jaw. The battle had ended only hours ago, but to him it already felt like years. Had been separated from his squad when the enemy's plasma strike cut through the hillside. 1 second he had been running beside his team, and the next the world had exploded in a blinding flash. When he woke up half buried under broken earth, there were no voices on the comms, only static. He tried again and again to reach someone, anyone, but no human voice answered. He was alone on alien territory, surrounded by the ruins of a war that should never have happened. His boots crunched softly as he moved deeper into the valley. Pieces of destroyed human machines lay scattered, twisted metal half-melted from alien heat blasts. Farther ahead, strange bluestone towers, structures, lay shattered as if they had simply given up. It was a graveyard for two species. His throat tightened. He had joined the human forces to protect life, not destroy it. Yet everywhere he looked, life seemed to have fled. A sudden breeze carried a faint whisper, a sound so delicate he almost mistook it for his own imagination. He turned quickly, raising his empty rifle by instinct. The power cell was gone, drained completely, but holding it made him feel less helpless. He breathed slowly, trying to calm his racing heart. If there were survivors, human or alien, he needed to know. He moved with caution, stepping past a broken banner fluttering weakly in the wind. The symbol glowed with dying light, a reminder that the aliens used living energy even for their cloth. As passed beneath a collapsed archway, the air grew colder, almost too still. Someone was there. He felt it before he saw it, a presence, a quiet pulse like the heartbeat of the valley itself. Then she stepped into view. Tall, graceful, almost unreal. Her silhouette glowed faint silver beneath the dim sky, and her long robe flowed like water made of moonlight. When she lifted her head, the crystals woven into her crown shimmered like stars. Her eyes, bright violet and ancient, fixed on him with an expression he couldn't read. Shock, sorrow, and something deeper all tangled together. Froze. He had never seen a queen before. Few humans had, and now one stood just 20 steps away, alone, vulnerable, and staring at him as if he were the last person she expected to find alive. Instinct screamed at him to run or fight, but he knew he couldn't win either. Not against her. Not with an empty rifle and a body barely standing. Slowly, he lowered the weapon. His chest tightened with fear, but he forced himself to show something, anything that wasn't aggression. So he did the only thing that felt right in the moment. He placed his hand against his heart, then extended his other hand forward with his palm open. A simple gesture, a human sign of peace. A sign he hoped would tell her he didn't want more bloodshed. He didn't want to die. He didn't want anyone to die. But the queen's eyes widened, filled with sudden shock. She took a sharp, trembling breath. Her glowing hand rose to her chest. Behind her, 2 guards emerged from the shadows, spears ready, but she lifted her arm quickly, commanding them to stop. Her voice, soft yet trembling, echoed through the valley. "Human, do you understand what you have just done?" Swallowed hard, "I just want peace," his voice cracked slightly. "I don't want to fight anymore." The queen stared at him with something close to disbelief, then something close to fear. "That gesture," she whispered, "is our sacred vow, a pledge of eternal loyalty, a bond no would make lightly." Her voice shook with emotion. "You have offered your spirit to me." Felt the blood drain from his face. He had tried to save his life. Instead, he had changed it forever. Chest pounded so hard he thought the queen might hear it over the silence of the valley. He tried to step back, but his boots felt heavy, like the ground itself was holding him there. His eyes never left hers. She was still glowing faintly, a living light in the ruins of war, and the moment felt bigger than any battle he had ever fought. He didn't understand what he had done, but he could feel it, the weight of it pressing down on his shoulders. You mean that?" he stammered. I didn't know what it meant." His hands shook. I wanted to show I'm not your enemy." The queen's violet eyes softened a little, but they were still full of a deep, strange awe. "Even so, it has been done," she said, her voice barely louder than the wind. "No human has ever made this vow without knowledge. No human has ever touched the sacred bond by accident." She tilted her head slightly, as if studying him like a puzzle she had never seen before. His heart sank. "I didn't mean to give you anything. I didn't want to." "You acted from your heart," she interrupted gently, "and that is what matters." Her words confused him. He had seen humans perform acts of bravery before, and he had seen soldiers make sacrifices out of duty, but this was something different. It wasn't duty. It wasn't fear. It wasn't strategy. It was an instinct he couldn't explain, and it had reached her. Somehow, without knowing it, he had offered her something No would have expected, and in doing so, he had given her trust. The guards behind her shifted uneasily. Some looked ready to strike him, convinced he might still be dangerous. Others lowered their spears slightly, unsure how to respond. They had never seen this happen, a human performing the sacred gesture of eternal loyalty. It was impossible, yet here it was real, and the queen had accepted it silently with nothing more than a gaze. Swallowed hard, he could feel sweat stinging his eyes. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now, he admitted. His voice was small, weak, but sincere. Do I stay? Do I leave? The queen stepped closer. Her robes whispered across the dust, silver in the fatting sunlight. You will do nothing unless you choose to, she said softly. This bond does not force you. It is a gift, and it is also a responsibility. You have offered it without knowing. Now the choice to honor it, or not, is yours. Blinked, he wanted to back away, wanted to turn around and run toward the remnants of his own people. But something held him in place. Her calm strength, her glowing presence, it was magnetic, and even as fear raged in his chest, he felt safe. Safe, he asked, incredulous. I've been in the middle of I'm lucky to be alive. She smiled faintly, a small curve of her lips that seemed impossible for someone so regal. I will guard your life, she said simply. As fiercely as I guard my own. That is what this vow does. You gave it without knowing, and now it is my duty to protect you. You do not need to fight. You do not need to run. You need only exist. His hands shook again, but this time it was not just fear. It was wonder. He had spent his life training to survive, to fight, to kill. And now, for the first time, someone was telling him that he could live, and that living itself could mean something. He looked at her, searching her face for signs of mockery, of deception, but found none. Only honesty, only trust. And something in him shifted, a quiet flame of hope that had almost died in the ashes of the battlefield. She said, her voice almost a whisper, human and our enemies. That is what history has taught us. But perhaps one choice made in sincerity can change history. Perhaps one heart, acting without knowledge but with courage, can create a new path. He swallowed, his throat tight. He could barely speak, but he forced out the words. I don't know if I can live up to that. Then you will try, she said firmly, but not harshly. You do not have to understand everything. You only have to honor what you have given. That is enough. The guards around them relaxed slightly, though their eyes still held caution. The queen turned back toward the ruins of her city, letting the silver glow fade slowly. Followed her gaze, seeing the shattered towers, the twisted metal, the evidence of war between two species. And in that moment he realized something. He had been given a second chance, not just at survival, but at meaning. For a human soldier who had expected only death, that was more than he could have imagined. And for the queen, who had never trusted a human completely, that was more than she had ever hoped for. In the middle of ruin and fear, a silent vow hung between them, unspoken but real, had offered it by accident. And in that accidental gesture, something eternal had begun. The queen's camp was unlike anything had ever imagined. Instead of cold, rigid walls, the area was alive with soft light. Bioluminescent plants grew along the edges of alien tents, casting a gentle glow across the uneven ground. Guards moved silently, their energy spears humming softly, yet they did not approach him. For the first time in hours, felt that he could breathe. But the weight of what had happened, the sacred gesture, the accidental vow, still pressed on him, heavier than any armor he had ever worn. He was escorted to a tent near the queen's own, though no one told him he was a prisoner. No chains, no locks, only the quiet hum of energy fields and the occasional shimmer of the glowing tents. Inside, a cot had been placed for him, along with fresh water and food. He stared at it all, feeling the strange mix of relief and disbelief. The same hands that had fired weapons at his squad now offered him shelter. His mind struggled to comprehend it. Hours later, the queen herself entered the tent. Her robe brushed the floor softly, and her silver glow filled the small space with light. She did not bring guards. She did not speak harshly or suspiciously. She looked at him with an intensity that made his chest tighten. You are awake, she said simply. Yes, replied, unsure if he should bow, kneel, or stay standing. His hands twitched nervously. You have questions, she said, as if reading his mind. And I will answer them. But first, know this, you are alive because of your gesture, and now, by that gesture, I am bound to you. Shook his head. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't mean to give you anything. I wanted to survive. The queen's eyes softened. That is why your act is meaningful. It was not made from fear. It was made from honesty, and that honesty is what binds you to me now. He sank onto the cot, trying to make sense of her words. His entire life had been spent following orders, surviving missions, protecting people he barely knew. And yet here, for the first time, someone was telling him that his instinct, his heart, could create something powerful, something beyond orders or strategy. You are not angry?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Anger would be for those who act with intent to harm," she replied. "You acted without knowledge. That is different. That is rare. That is beautiful." Blinked beautiful. "Yes," she said softly. "You offered trust before knowing its weight. That is something No has done in generations, and in doing so you have given me hope." He wanted to argue, to say that hope was not his gift, that he was just lucky to survive. But he could not. Every word she spoke carried a weight that settled deep into his chest. The queen sat near him, close enough that he could feel the warmth of her presence, though her glow was soft. "Tell me about your world, about why humans fight, about what you fear, about what you love." He hesitated. Humans had always been soldiers of war, taught to hide feelings, to bury fear. But something about her, about the strange sincerity in her violet eyes, made him speak. Slowly, haltingly, he told her about his family, his squad, his dreams before the war had taken everything. She listened without interruption, never judging, never mocking, only holding space for him to speak. When he finished, she said quietly, "Your world is fragile, but it has heart, and that heart is what connects to mine now." Realize then that this vow, though accidental, was not a chain. It was a bridge. And on this bridge they stood together, not as human and alien enemies, but as two beings who had survived death and found something worth protecting. He looked at her, unsure how to put it into words. I don't know what to do now. I feel like I owe you my life." She smiled, a small curve of her lips that made him feel strangely safe. "Then live it well. Honor it with courage, with care, with action. You do not owe me blind obedience. You owe only honesty. That is all a heart can give." For the first time in what felt like forever, slept without fear. Not because the world was safe, but because he understood he had been offered protection, not captivity. The vow he had accidentally given had become a lifeline, and in the quiet glow of the camp, he realized that sometimes survival was only the first step. Understanding, trust, and choice were the steps that came next. Outside the tent, the wind carried the faint hum of distant alarms, but inside felt peace. For now he was neither prisoner nor warrior. He was simply a human who had accidentally touched something sacred, and in that touch he had begun a journey that would change him, and perhaps both species, forever. The first light of dawn broke across the shattered valley, turning the ruins into a canvas of orange and gold. Awoke to the soft hum of the camp, but something felt wrong. A vibration ran through the air, low and urgent. He stepped outside his tent and his heart sank. Far across the horizon, plumes of smoke rose and faint metallic shapes shimmered in the sunlight. Human forces were returning, armies, machines, weapons, ready to finish what had begun yesterday. Panic gripped him. He had survived the first battle by accident, and now the war was coming back. The Queen's guards moved quickly, forming protective circles around her, energy shields glowing brightly, but the humans would not wait. His mind raced. He thought of the sacred gesture he had made, the accidental vow that now tied him to her. If this battle reached the camp, lives would be lost, and she would be the first target. A voice called softly. It was the Queen. She stood at the edge of the glowing perimeter, her robes flowing in the morning wind. "You must stay inside. You are under my protection." He shook his head. "No," he said firmly, his voice cracking. "I can't hide while they come to kill you. You saved me. Now I'll fight to protect you." Her violet eyes widened, shock and worry mingling. "You would fight your own people?" she asked softly, her voice trembling with concern. "I don't fight for sides," he said, gripping a fallen spear. Its energy pulse hummed under his fingers. "I fight for life, for whoever stands between death and hope." His expression softened, and for a brief moment the weight of the vow, the accidental gesture that had started it all, seemed to settle into a quiet understanding between them. "Then stand with me," she whispered. The humans drew closer, their machines stomping across the valley floor, weapons glowing with deadly heat. Tightened his grip on the spear, the energy coursing through it almost matching the pounding of his heart. Beside him, the Queen raised her hand, and a radiant shield spread across the camp, pushing back the advancing soldiers and blinding them with light. The warriors prepared for battle, their movements precise and lethal, yet could see the tension in their eyes. They had never fought with a human willingly by their side. And yet here he was. The first human mech fired, the blast illuminating the valley in harsh blue light. Leaped forward instinctively, shoving behind the shield. Sparks flew as the energy hit him instead, rattling his bones but leaving him standing. Pain burned through his arms, his legs, his chest, but he did not fall. He could not. Not now, not when the queen, the protector who had spared him, was in danger because of him. "You will not die here," he shouted, voice raw with effort and fear. "Not while I can stand." She looked at him with wide eyes, her glowing hand reaching toward him instinctively. But there was no time for words. The human soldiers hesitated as they saw him, a lone human standing with the alien queen blocking their path. Confusion rippled through their ranks. Some raised weapons, some paused entirely uncertain. Moved through the chaos, using the spear to redirect blasts, to knock aside falling debris to shield the queen from harm. Each time a weapon fired at her, he took the impact, energy burning through his armor, pain radiating through his body, yet he remained standing. His heart pounded in his ears. He was terrified. He was exhausted. But he would not let her die. Not when she had trusted him, without knowing him, not when his accidental vow now demanded courage. The humans stopped firing as their commander's voice boomed through the valley. "Stand down! Who is that soldier?" Lowered the spear slightly, panting, but did not move away from the queen. He could feel every gaze on him, the humans confused, the in awe, and the queen's violet eyes filled with something he could not name. Trust, hope, and something soft, almost like relief. In that moment, the battlefield was no longer just a war zone. It was a crossroads. A single human soldier had changed the dynamic between two species with nothing but courage, instinct, and an accidental vow. Realized then that the sacred gesture he had performed, so clumsy and meaningless in the moment, had become a catalyst. It had bound him to the queen, to her people, and perhaps even to a new future. And as the first rays of sun hit his face, and the humans hesitated, knew one thing with absolute clarity. He would fight not for sides, not for glory, but for the life he had been given the right to protect. Because sometimes even the smallest, most accidental act could shape the destiny of two worlds. The battlefield roared with the sound of engines, energy blasts, and shouted orders. Human mechs stomped across the valley, their metal legs clanging against the rocks, their cannons glowing bright. Warriors moved like flowing light, forming protective circles around Queen. The air was heavy with smoke, dust, and the metallic tang of battle. In the middle of it all stood, gripping the spear tightly, his heart racing faster than any human machine. The humans hesitated as they saw him, a lone human soldier fighting alongside the alien queen. It made no sense. Their comms crackled with confusion. "Who is that?" one shouted. "Why is he with them?" Another voice barked orders. "Target him, he's betraying his own kind." Didn't flinch. He ignored the whispers and the confusion. Every movement he made was deliberate. Every step forward meant shielding the queen, protecting her from the relentless fire raining down. The spear hummed in his hands, glowing with alien energy as he deflected blasts and knocked debris away from her path. The queen moved with grace, directing her warriors, but she never took her eyes off him. She called once, voice tight with worry, "Step back." He shouted back. Pain lanced through his chest as an energy blast hit his shoulder, knocking him to his knees. But even as he struggled to rise, he caught her gaze. Her violet eyes, calm yet fierce, gave him courage. He couldn't stop. He wouldn't. The battle surged around them. Explosions shook the ground, metal twisted and sparks flew, yet moved with a strange clarity, each action instinctive. He pushed an enemy mech back with the spear, then caught a falling warrior before she could hit the ground. Every life he saved added to the weight of his vow, the accidental, sacred promise he had given without knowing it. One human commander, watching through the scope of a mech, realized what was happening. "Cease fire! Do not harm him!" he ordered, but many soldiers ignored him, driven by fear and confusion. His body ached, burns and cuts lining his arms and face, but he pressed on. Each time a weapon aimed for the queen, he intercepted it. Each time a blast would have struck her, he took the energy instead. Then came the moment that would define everything. A massive human mech advanced toward, cannon charged. It fired, lunged, pushing her behind him, taking the brunt of the shot across his chest. Sparks and energy surged through him, pain exploding in every nerve, yet he stayed on his feet, holding the spear firm. He could feel the warmth of life in the queen behind him, the trust that tied him to her, and that gave him strength beyond his human limits. "Why are you doing this?" cried, her voice trembling. "Why risk everything for me?" His lips curled into a weak, pained smile. "Because you saved me first," he whispered. "Because you trusted me when I didn't even know who I was. Because life is worth fighting for, no matter the side." For a moment, silence fell over the valley. Both humans and paused, watching the lone human soldier, battered and burning, standing unwavering beside an alien queen. The impossible had happened. A bridge between two worlds, a single act of courage and loyalty, and it stopped the war for an instant. The human commander's voice cut through the quiet. "Hold fire, stand down, that soldier, he's not our enemy." Confusion spread, but the damage had been done. Eyes shifted, weapons lowered. No one wanted to be the first to destroy hope. Breathed heavily, chest heaving as he finally lowered the spear. His armor was scorched, his muscles screamed, but he was still standing. Stepped forward, reaching out to touch his shoulder gently. Her hand glowed faint silver, warmth spreading into him. You have changed everything," she whispered. "I just did what I could," said, voice rough. "I didn't plan this, I didn't know, I only acted." She smiled softly, eyes shimmering with emotion. "And that is exactly why it matters. Your act was accidental, but it is true. You gave me trust without knowing. You gave me loyalty without thought. And now, you have given both our peoples a chance at peace." The valley, once filled with the noise of war, seemed to exhale. Smoke rose gently. The humans lowered their weapons fully. The warriors relaxed their stances, awe and respect on their glowing faces. In the middle of it all, and stood together, alive, standing for something greater than fear, greater than anger. For the first time in centuries, human and eyes met, not as enemies, but as witnesses to a moment that could shape the future. A moment born of accident, courage, and the heart of a single human soldier. And in that moment, the impossible seemed possible. A new path, a fragile but real bridge between two species, created by the courage of one man who had acted from instinct, heart, and honor. The valley was quiet now. Smoke curled lazily into the sky, mixing with the soft, golden light of the setting sun. The battlefield that had roared with chaos hours ago was now a scene of uneasy peace. Human soldiers and warriors alike lowered their weapons, surveying the damage and the unexpected miracle that had stopped the bloodshed. And in the middle of the ruined valley, Brooks stood, still holding the spear, battered and bruised, but alive. His chest heaved. His body ached in every joint, every muscle, every nerve. Yet he couldn't collapse, couldn't let himself sink into exhaustion, not yet. All around him, the humans stared, whispering to each other, confused and cautious. The warriors watched him with a mix of awe and disbelief. And somewhere deep inside, he felt the weight of the sacred gesture he had made, the accidental vow that had now become more than words. It was living, breathing, demanding him to stand. Stepped forward beside him, her robes glowing softly in the last light of day. Her eyes, violet and full of quiet power, swept over both humans and alike. "Enough," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "This war ends here because it can." The human commander, a stern man with graying hair, raised his voice across the valley. "Soldier," he barked, "explain yourself. Why are you standing with them?" His arms trembled as he lowered the spear. Pain radiated through his body, but his voice was steady. "I didn't mean to," he said. "I didn't know what I was doing. I just acted. I tried to protect life. Hers, mine, everyone's. That's all I know." The commander blinked, confused. You mean to say you risked yourself for her?" Nodded. "Yes, I risked myself, and I would do it again." Took a step closer to him, her glowing hand resting gently on his shoulder. "He speaks truth," she said softly, her voice carrying across the valley. "He performed the sacred gesture of my people without knowledge of its meaning, and yet he has honored it with his courage, his heart, and his actions. This human has given both our peoples hope." Silence fell over the valley. The humans lowered their weapons fully, unsure what to say, what to do. Some exchanged glances, disbelief and admiration mixing in their eyes. Even the warriors relaxed their stances, lowering their spears, their faces a mixture of respect and wonder. Exhaled slowly. "I didn't do it for glory," he said quietly. "I didn't do it to change anything. I couldn't let her die, and I couldn't let anyone die if I could stop it." His eyes softened. She knelt slightly, looking up at him, and for the first time felt the full weight of her presence, not as a ruler, not as a queen, but as a being who understood him completely. "That is why your act matters more than words," she said. "It was pure, it was honest, and in honesty there is power. Power to change hearts, power to create peace, power to bind two worlds together in a way war never could." Felt his chest tighten. He had spent his life following orders, fighting battles, surviving missions. And yet in this moment he realized that survival alone had never mattered. What mattered was courage, compassion, and honesty. What mattered was the choice to protect, even when it was dangerous, even when no one would understand. The humans began to lower their weapons further, some stepping forward cautiously. "He's telling the truth," one said. "I saw him. He saved her. He saved and human alike." Another muttered, maybe there's more to this than war." "Looked at, I don't know what this means for either of us," he admitted, "or for the two peoples." She smiled faintly, her violet eyes shimmering in the dim light. "It means this," she said softly. "We have a choice now, a chance to build something better, to learn from one another, to honor the accidental vow you made but choose what it becomes." For the first time since he had arrived on this alien world, felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. Not just hope for himself, but hope for all the lives hanging in the balance between two species. And he realized something powerful. The sacred gesture he had performed without knowing its meaning had changed everything, not because it was required, but because he had chosen to act with his heart. Extended her hand toward him. She said softly, "Will you walk this new path with me?" He hesitated, thinking of his past, of his home, of the battles yet to come. Then he nodded. "Yes," he whispered, "I will." And in that quiet, broken valley, a human soldier and an alien queen stood side by side. Two worlds, once enemies, now glimpsed the possibility of peace. And in the stillness, a bond forged from accident, courage, and honesty began to grow. A bond that would shape the future in ways no one could have imagined.